So tire reviews, it's something I'm very passionate about. Actually, tire reviews are the second most subjective topic you're gonna find in motorcycling. So I have some tips for you when you read and watch those reviews. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you do that thing down below. So tire reviews, it's something I'm very passionate about. And I think I could set these down now. Yeah, tire reviews, something I'm very passionate about. And unfortunately, tire reviews are the second most subjective topic you're gonna find in motorcycling. So I have some tips for you when you read and watch those reviews to know whether or not they are worth your time looking at and if it applies to you, and to know whether or not you can trust those reviews. So stick around and I'll talk about how I look at reviews to determine whether or not they're any good. One of the first things I look for in a tire review is how the reviewer used the tire. I do a lot of on-road to get to off-road riding. I'm fully loaded with camping gear, a lot of luggage on me. So I wanna see if the reviewer is doing that same type of riding, because then I expect the performance out of the tires to be similar to what I would get out of them. I also look to see at how many miles the reviewer put on the tire before doing the review. The less miles they've put on the tire before doing the review, the less I'm likely to pay a lot of attention to the review, because it's not gonna fit for everything I'm looking for, which is traction off-road, longevity, road handling, and as a tire gets worn down, its performance tends to degrade. So I wanna know what that's gonna look like over time. So I look for someone who's done reviews at the end of the tire life, or maybe has done reviews throughout the life of the tire. Anyone who does first impression tire reviews, I don't bother to watch and I don't bother to read, because I don't think that gives you an accurate impression of what this tire is gonna be. And I'm more interested in the long life of the tire, not how it performs in the first 500 miles. So that's the first thing I look for. The second thing I look for a tire review is if the reviewer said what size of tires they were using, both front and rear. Because depending on the size of tire, the bike that it was put on, the horsepower of the bike, the tire is going to perform differently. And what I'm talking about is the tires on my R1200 GS, the 170 by 60 by 17 rear tire and the 120 by 70 19 front tire is going to perform a lot differently on that bike, because it has 125 horsepower. It weighs 550 plus pounds before I put luggage on it. So the longevity of the wear on that's going to be different. The handling off-road is going to be different with the way that the tire performs and the contact patch that it has. The width of the tire, because that's going to be different. And then also because of the amount of horsepower, how easily it's going to be able to break traction off-road. And then just the traction that it gets, and then the way it's going to wear on the road as well. So I like to know exactly what tires are being reviewed because of those differences. And in some cases, tires look a little bit differently based on those tire sizes. And I'll have an example of that with a Heidenau K60 Scout. If you're using that tire in a small size, a small bike size, it doesn't have that middle rib in it like it does on the bigger bike. So you're gonna get a different performance out of it. Also, you know, with the lighter bikes, anything that weighs in the 400 pound category, because of that lower weight, you are likely to get more miles out of your tires than you are on a bigger bike. And the way it handles off-road, like I said before, with big bikes, little bikes, it's going to be different. So for me, when I'm looking at a tire, I want to know what size of tire is being reviewed. And I've tried to, in my more recent tire reviews, be very explicit on the size of tire, because it does make a difference. Finally, the last thing I look for when I look at tire reviews is whether or not the reviewer was given the tires, is sponsored by the tire manufacturer, or is a journalist. Because what I have seen over the years of reading and watching tire reviews is if someone's been given a set of tires, their review is not going to be very objective. And if you look at the review, you'll see that everything they talk about this tire, whatever tire they're reviewing, is always going to be positive. They'll have very few negative things to say, and if they do have anything negative to say, it will be minimized. And I get that, because if you have someone giving you tires to use and review, you're not going to want to say anything bad about it, because you're not going to get tires again. And tires are expensive, especially for motorbikes, and if you do any amount of riding, you're going to be going through those a lot. I think this year alone, I'm going to spend between $800 to $1,000 on tires alone, because I'm going through them. And when it comes to someone who's sponsored by a tire manufacturer, they are definitely not going to say many negative things about a tire, if any negative things at all, because that's helping feed their riding, and that's one less expense for them. And the same can be said about journalists as well. If you look at journalist reviews of tires and motorbikes, you're gonna see that everything is the best thing ever invented since the combustion engine. And you'll never see anything negative in those reviews. I have a really hard time putting much value in those reviews when I can determine how the reviewer got the tires. Anyone who's spending their own money on tires and doing a review, I trust that it's going to be something worth taking a look at, because they're not tied to any companies. They're not going to be risking whether or not they're getting tires again, and there's a lot more honesty in those reviews. All of these tires have some sort of compromise in how they handle, how they perform on-road, off-road. There's always going to be something. So keep that in mind when you're looking at reviews. Look at who's doing the review and whether or not you can really trust it. And that should help you make decisions on what tires you use. The other thing I wanted to add is, if you look at outlet stores, the outlet stores will do comparison reviews, they'll do their own tire reviews. The thing to remember about outlet stores is they need to sell tires. So when they do the comparison reviews, what they do is they highlight all of the great points about a tire and compare it to the others, but you don't see them talk about some of the negative parts of tires, some of the negative things that you may see in what we as everyday riders spending our own money on may want to know about. So take that into account too if you're looking at the outlet comparisons. Not that there isn't value, there is a little bit of value in those, seeing the differences between tires, but you're not going to see any of the deficiencies in those tires between them all. All right, a couple of final thoughts on reviewing tire reviews. I've done quite a few tire reviews myself, and I've refined the way I do tire reviews. I'm a lot more explicit about the tire size that I use. I have been critical of particular tires, and I have gotten raked over the coals for it. There is some brand loyalty when it comes to tires. There's some expectations that some people have that I don't share when it comes to tires. So because of that, and because of the brutal honesty I try to have in tire reviews, I thought it would be worthwhile doing this video. So if you're looking for a new set of tires and you're going through that process, go into it with open eyes, knowing that there is bias in tire reviews, and that even includes reviewers like myself, that maybe there's something about a particular tire that I really like, and I may highlight that more than some of the negatives. But those of us that are spending our own money on tires are going to have a much more objective, or at least be leaning more objective in our reviews than those people that are getting those. So yes, if you are as passionate about tires as I am, then hopefully you found this useful, and it'll help you evaluate tires the next time you take a look at them. So if you have any ideas on things that you do when you evaluate tires, leave those in the comments below. If you have any other questions or thoughts, leave that in the comments below. I like interacting with you guys. And yeah, tires, it's a big topic, and it can be very divisive depending on who you're talking to. So thanks for watching, and I will see you out there.